Today we're going to be talking all about independent films. Mainly these are a lot of great films that a lot of people miss. Some of our favorites, some of my favorite movies of all time are independent movies. Today we're going to talk about these, shed some light on some movies that maybe you've missed. This summer has been a little disappointing. So here's some movies that we think you'll really like. What's going on, you loyal listeners? I am your host, as per the usual, Luke Larson. Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared podcast. And joining me today is, my rock, my other half, the one, my Neo, the Neo to my Morpheus, old legs, Jordan Ices. What's up? So, as I said in the intro, we're talking independent movies, and when we were looking at this topic, we kind of saw that there's one production company that stands above the rest in producing some of the most high quality newer independent movies, A24, and yeah. So what do you think?
A24, A24.
A24.
We were having this discussion earlier.
Off air.
It might be A24. We're going with A24.
It seems more proper.
Yeah. So, I think this conversation is it's at the core of it, what we're really talking about and what leads us to wanting to talk about this production company, wanting to talk about some of the films that they've put out there, is the fact that we haven't really been too happy with the summer movies this year.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who's been thrilled with the summer we've gotten. Blockbusters has, been really, like we just talked about in the last one, Jason Bourne.
I had a lot of eggs in those baskets.
Yeah, it was bad. It was just
many treadstones.
Yeah. I mean, I think the earlier summer did well, but it kind of, at best, it was, okay, but when that happens, as per, I think our relationship, if I could be so bold as to say that, it's official, is that we both obviously love movies. I think we both love art. You don't like art? Quote.
You are art.
Moms.
Mom and dad.
We don't need to go. Yeah. Thank you for.
Franco
Yeah,
You can't sneak that one by me.
Yeah.
I know my Franco.
I'm pandering to my audience right now. And
I'm the
it's
Franco
easy.
head.
Yeah, it's true. But who's a huge supporter of independent film, one of the biggest out there. But yeah, and I think as I was alluding to, how many times can we say alluding to in a series of videos or audios?
We allude. We're alluders.
Eluders. We are the eluders.
We allude quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We allude with the best of them. So I have no issue.
The eluders.
With the word. We are the eluders.
We are the eluders.
We allude to keep the bad eluders at bay.
What's the opposite of elude? Elude?
Allude. Yeah.
Allude.
We're back to
Full
allude.
circle.
Yeah.
Allude. Elude and allude. Right? Is allude a word? Because as I was alluding to, which is kind of like
It's a spoken word.
it's
It might
referred.
not be like a word on paper.
I think it's a real word.
Could be.
Eluding. I was alluding to, which basically means referring to,
I
which
forgot
means you're not.
you were-
So I'm trying to figure out what the opposite of alluding is.
That'd be like a.
Now we're in the
Now we're
same.
back to treadstone. Now we're covering. now we're covering up. That'd
I'm
be like
gonna-
a cover up.
I'm going all in here. Oh, I already spelled it wrong. It's Alude. It's already Alude. That's how it's spelled, is Alude. Suggest or call attention to indirectly hint at. Oh boy, we are right on the topic with that. So let's look here at some. What's not a synonym, but what's the what's the word for the opposite of something? Thank you. That should be on dictionary.com, right? You'd think. Synonyms. Okay. How about we just take forever to load? That'd be nice. Okay, let's just. Oh my god.
Let's jump back in.
No, 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 no.
Oh boy.
We're too far.
Oh boy. We're going down the
Are
hole.
you effing kidding me, Jordan? Are you seriously? Are you doing? Are you kidding? I really don't know. I'm gonna find this. I've gone too far down this hole not to. There we go, right there. Let's figure it out. Okay, well that does not help me. Okay, so antonyms: announce, declare, proclaim. So allude is like indirectly saying it. So yeah, the opposite would be like. So there isn't a direct opposite. Well, I'm glad. I hope you learned something out there today. So
back to the
allude
story.
/ allude, what we were alluding to, is I've already halfway forgotten what I was alluding to. Maybe if I wouldn't have alluded to it, if I would have proclaimed it or disclaimed it, which is weird that they mean this almost the same thing. Let's go down that hole too. No, this is not a grammar show. It's a movie show. Oh yeah, now I remember. Okay, movies. So what I was alluding to is that our relationship, that's the word I used, is, is founded on movies. I tend to side more for, the bigger studio movies, and I hate saying that because I love independent movies and smaller movies so much. I really do. But the best way I can describe it is, I don't know if you've ever seen an art house movie that you thought, this is a little too artsy.
Never. Right. No.
So that's kind of where the line gets drawn with us. I can see something as style over substance where,
I can't get enough.
Right,
I
exactly.
can't get enough of the 10-minute camera pan across the room.
Yeah.
Across the perfectly placed
Pepsi, Diet Pepsi.
Yes. 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 High art Pepsi can. Yes.
Hey,
my favorite.
yeah.
How did you know?
Yeah, I mean, independent movies, they got to make money. They're not backed by any studio.
So what you're saying, are you saying you're more inclined to like, you have a more Spielberg?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what like
mainstream.
the basis of it.
I would say like
because that's the pinnacle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For blockbusters and big studio releases.
I get that.
Tentpole movies. But what I would say is that, like, my deep love and appreciation for movies, that really bleeds through independent movies. That's why I love independent movies so much. But the thing is that I think the way I would describe it is like a by the books, by the numbers, normal studio movie. I will be more inclined to be like, that was pretty good. Whereas, a by the books, not trying very hard independent movie, I think I would hold a little more against that. So, whereas, like, I think I might have higher expectations for independent movies than I do for studio movies. So when your expectations are lowered, a lot of times, if they're okay, you're like, yeah, it's pretty much what I expected. But when an independent movie isn't up to that high standard, it's a little bit different of a mindset, I guess.
That's interesting. Yeah, it is. I guess I think you are right. Yeah, it's a bit of a double standard that for an independent movie to be watched, it needs to be exceptional.
Yeah, amazing.
Whereas we tend to give out a pass to stuff that comes through the theaters and is going to be there for 6 weeks and is maybe given a pass because we go to turn off our brain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that. That's interesting. Interesting double standard. Well, yeah, so A24. We were having this conversation about the summer movies, about the summer we've had, the kind of disappointment we felt, and obviously, a lot of that is like kind of steaming off the Jason Bourne hype train that left us
At the
wanting a
stage.
little bit more. And so we started thinking about it, like what are some of the best movies that we've seen this year? And for me, I think you can look pretty much. I'd be hard pressed to find a collection of movies that maybe they aren't great, but they're interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about Swiss Army Man, The Lobster, Adderall Diaries, Green Room, Krisha. This is The Witch, Room. The list goes on.
The end of the tour, Amy. I mean, Slow West. It's really like, yeah. Well, Ex Machina, While We're Young, A Most Violent Year, Tusk. Yeah, I mean, like it literally keeps going and going and going. And yeah, when we were talking about this, we like couldn't believe that we didn't know more about this company when
Right.
we just started seeing these huge names. We're like, holy shit, these are all amazing. Like, really, like, I mean, just jumped off the page. Like, I mean, I knew the logo and I knew of the, thing, but I never paid much attention to it until we were talking about this, and we were like, wow, it is a ridiculous amount of just great independent movies.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting, and especially thinking about the culture we live in today, where I think Hollywood is a very good example of how Hollywood and just kind of how we take in media is a really interesting example of how oversaturation is so like today. Like you look at there's so many examples. Like every single one of these companies that has anything to do with movies, television, are all about oversaturation. They want as much content as they can get their hands on. You think about Netflix. You think about any of these like streaming services. All they want to do is just like they're casting a wide net, and they're taking what they can get because it's about a library.
Fishing with dynamite.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting to see, a film production company like this that's basically done a 180 and has said we're going to value substance over a massive collection.
And for those who aren't so good with degrees, what is a 180?
A 180 is it is a half turn.
Okay, so
Yeah. So we're not talking about a full turn. Right. Just a half.
So let's say you're walking
at the front of the room, and then I did a 180. I could walk back to the other side of the room.
Okay, but which side were you on though?
I was on the other side.
So then you end on the opposite side you were going towards.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
A 180.
An 180 degree turn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, if you go into a room, there's one door in. The only way out would be to pull a 180 because that's the only way out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's what they've done. It's interesting, and I think it deserves some merit to see a studio that's so focused on bringing in quality projects, and that honestly, I know this isn't easy. A lot of this stuff, I know for certain. I'm almost positive. I can't remember. I think it was Room that they had bought just based on the script. They hadn't actually started shooting yet, which is very uncharacteristic. So obviously they have some kind of know how to do this because and just a really interesting example too of like taste and is I think a movie, The Sea of Trees. I don't know if you've seen that at all.
I haven't.
It's not
Have you?
not saying like seen it, but heard.
Oh,
of
Yeah,
So
when
it's
it
done
went
the
through
yeah
the
it's done
festivals.
yep
That's when I
it's
heard
done
about
its
it.
festival run.
Yeah,
It's supposedly not good,
that's exactly what I heard about it.
very not good,
Which
but
is like music to your ears.
yeah, but it's interesting, and I really want to watch it. Which is I don't. It's like they've infected my mind. Like
Yeah.
I didn't obviously I didn't know about this movie beforehand, but just understanding the story and understanding the people involved in it. A Matthew McConaughey led Ken Watanabe, are in the forest and they're talking about life and philosophy, and it's a terrible movie, and I really want to see it, and they bought it, and I'm like, wow, like that's.
I really want to see it. Yeah.
So yeah, because I hesitate to say that their their taste is impeccable and they only gravitate towards the best movies because they don't. They just have these interesting.
No, absolutely, and like you said,
what I'm saying there?
absolutely, and I think when you say with taste, the varying degrees. I don't know if you could find two movies that are even in the same genre on here. I mean, they are wildly different, which is
Right.
amazing. And yeah, this production company like A24 and probably Bloomhouse are up there for like the two rock star,
Yeah.
production company that aren't owned by a star. I mean, really, we really can't stress enough just how much these movies jump off the page to you. I mean, even if they weren't the most well received, they're at least incredibly interesting and probably have a very niche audience, and it's cool that, like you said, this really gives a good platform for that, and brings it to more people than it would have normally. And like you said, an oversaturated market. I think when you can put up really good art and these movies, a lot of them are passion projects, because independent movies don't make money, like they're literally not made to make money because they're independent, which means, if you guys don't know, that means that they're not backed by any studio, they're not funded by anyone. They'll have private investors, they'll get the money, and then A24 is a production company. So then, A24 will bid on it, and then, they'll help get it made, and then they'll help with the distribution, and, then they get a cut of the profits, obviously, from it. But, I mean, their business model must be working, and they really must bank on the quality of their movies and the resale value of that, because their movies are off the charts good.
It's absolutely worked, and it's really I thought it was really noteworthy. Any of these movies you want to talk about?
I do, actually, a lot of them. So buckle in, folks.
Oh boy. Here we go.
And yeah, I don't know. We haven't really touched on this much. I guess I don't know if we've said it or not touched on, alluded to. We haven't alluded to many of these here. So I'm going to proclaim or disclaim or exonerate. Could I say that? I think I'm going to say that. I want to exonerate these movies. Spring Breakers, I haven't seen, but I've only heard great things about it.
Spring Breakers is, and I think this is actually the movie that kind of put them on the map as being like, wow, this is a really interesting project. Spring Breakers it's basically James Franco is absolutely let off the leash.
He gets to do whatever he wants.
And yes, and it's magical and glorious, and it's just this fever dream of weekend gone wrong, basically. And yeah, it has pretty much everything you can imagine. There's a Gucci Mane cameo, and he's actually good in the movie. It's not just it's not a throwaway, rapper artist cameo. This is like actually, this is it's got everything you would love, and basically it is what it is. And yeah, I can't. I love that.
I'm really excited to see it.
I love that.
I wish you guys could see the passion on his face, because it is ridiculous.
It's it's one of my favorite Franco performances.
That's saying
just
a lot.
because it's so over the top, and you can just tell that they had a really fun time
Look
doing
at
that
all my
movie.
shit.
Because
Look at all my shit.
yeah. I think his name was Alien or something like that. It was it was
Of
great.
course.
And that's
Dreadlocks,
Yeah.
grill, right?
Yeah, and that's not alluding to the fact that he might have been an alien.
Yeah,
in that movie.
very much.
Like
That's
I was
subtle.
towards the end where you're like, this, yes,
Yeah,
maybe this is it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just looking, more a little bit, and yeah, they've only been around since 2012, so they're brand new. It seems like, but Enemy, Jake Gyllenhaal is my favorite working actor right now. I think for me, really. Well, yeah, he is. I mean, just the way he prepares for roles and only takes because he was going down a bad path for a while. He did Donnie Darko, one of my
Some of the best do.
yeah, Donnie Darko top 10. It's in my top 10. Sometimes it's in my top 5. Sometimes number 6. It kind of depends sometimes, but I love that movie. And he ever since 2012 with End of Watch, great movie. That was the movie that really inspired him to really get into the preparation of movies. And so since he's taken these smaller roles where he can really get into it, and he loves the preparation for movies. And one of them he did recently is called Enemy, which is done by these guys, obviously. A24, A24, alluded to. And it's directed by Denis Villeneuve. He's a French-Canadian man from Quebec, I believe. And he did one of our favorite. He's so good. He directed Sicario this last year, Sicario, and then Prisoners, which he did Enemy first, and then he did Prisoners. Prisoners was released first, and then Enemy. Prisoners,
double feature.
yeah, and it's a great one. I love Prisoners. It's one people say they only need to watch once. I've seen it probably 6 times. I love that movie.
Yeah.
And it might say something about me, I guess.
Yeah, you're a stronger man than I. The only thing I wanted to remember from that movie was Jake Gyllenhaal's top button on his collared shirts
and his twitch in his eyes and
that was the main takeaway from that movie for me. Even though I liked it.
Yeah,
Hard watch,
I'm a sick puppy.
Yeah. I like me some full button up t-shirts. So.
Yeah, no, and it's great. But Enemy was the smaller one that a lot of people haven't seen. This movie is phenomenal. It's such a great I love it so much because it doesn't give you anything. It really doesn't. It you go into it and you're like, oh, what? Especially the end, the very end. You're like, okay, what is going on? And it's so simple. It's just this. It's basically, if I would give you a premise, it's this guy, Jake Gyllenhaal. He's like this teacher at a college, I think, and he's got a great beard, a phenomenal beard as well. So I don't know if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. But basically,
there's Gyllenhaal, there's a beard, and
that's it.
I'm in. Yeah.
And he's this teacher, and he eventually he's talking to a coworker. This coworker recommends this movie to him. He rents it and watches it, and he sees this actor in the movie, and it's in this one scene, this tiny part, and this dude looks exactly like him. It's the same person. He keeps rewinding and pausing it. And he's like, who is that guy? I need to find out who he is. He looks just like me. So, basically through that, he, has this doppelganger, and he tries to find him or whatever. So, on that premise alone, I think that would get you interested. It's such a good movie. And it really forces you to do homework and to dive in twice as hard and to really think and what is going on.
Highly recommend.
Highly recommend. If this is definitely one of those movies that you'll need to watch at least twice. You'll need to do homework afterwards. And I love those movies because the payoff on rewatchability is through the roof. And it's really it's a modern classic, I think, in my opinion. I think it's one that'll be studied for a long time, and it flew under the radar.
I agree.
You know, I don't know. Are there any of these you want?
I've seen Under the Skin. Very, very good Scarlett Johansson
I've heard good
performance.
things.
It's basically Scarlett Johansson, and she's running the show, and she's a. This is where I think this is where we might divide a little bit, because this is probably out of that list. This is probably the most auteur, as far as this is an art house film, 100%. It's an art house film with the premise of Scarlett Johansson's an alien who eats people, men specifically.
That sounds good to me.
And yeah, based off that premise, I think
You're
that's
either
a pretty,
in or out.
yeah, it's a very appetizing like hook, but I feel like many people would be put off by the pace of the movie. I personally enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Very open-ended, kind of how you would expect the ending. Not how you would expect, but a movie of this kind of nature. I thought that was really interesting. Locke, I haven't seen.
I've heard great things. I haven't seen it either. It's one that I've really wanted to see. Tom Hardy, one of our favorites. He is apparently just in a car the whole time. Yes. It sounds great.
Yes.
It's one that we both need to
Sign
see.
A car ride with Tom.
I'm all in.
Hardy. Come on, man.
He's extremely dreamy. That's for sure. Okay, here's an interesting one. Tusk. Have you ever seen Tusk?
I missed it.
Directed by Kevin Smith, one of the kings of independent film.
Yes.
Kind of put independent
Sold
movies
stuff.
on the map in 1994 with Clerks, which also 1994 the best year for movies, bar none. I'll fight you to my grave. I was saying that this is kind of off topic, but I don't really care. It's my show. It's our show, Jordan.
I am a guest returning as a guest.
Due to scheduling conflicts, you are back.
Never gonna be the co-host.
No.
Only a guest.
The guest. It's Kevin Smith, 1994. So, like, Watch Mojo is this YouTube channel. They do top 10 lists on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, they don't need it. They're huge. But anyway, I love them. I'm a sucker for lists. I really am, especially top 10 lists. And I was saying since high school, like, honestly, my senior year of high school, me and a friend of mine thought of this, and that was before I met you, before our love of movies and our intellect really just exploded and you know, grew at a tremendous rate. But at that time, I was like 1994, that's probably the best year for movies. Just looking at all the number ones that have come out that year, it is ridiculous. In the month of October alone was Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption, and Pulp Fiction. Just in October. I mean, that is ridiculous. Not to mention The Lion King came out that year, the greatest animated movie of all time. Dumb and Dumber, the greatest comedy of all time. Legends of the Fall, kind of a forgettable movie, but it was really good if you rewatch it.
There's some decent flicks there.
Wolf, Jack Nicholson, guilty pleasure. Mask.
I can tell you what 1994 didn't have.
What?
Jack Reacher.
That's not the point. Stop bringing that up. But anyway, and yeah, so Clerks.
Reach.
Okay, that's enough. Right, we'll find someone else for the guest. But Clerks 1994 came out, and that was like the rock star independent movie. Mm-hmm. So I've been a big Kevin Smith fan. I actually have one of his books on my shelf down there. It's called Tough Shit. I'm a huge fan. I love Kevin Smith. He's a great guy. So Tusk was a movie that came out, and I was really excited to see it, and I think when I saw it, I got a little too nitpicky. I think I got a little too... That's the thing I try to, like... It's a fine line you want to walk. Is like, I don't want to be too overly critical, because art is hard, and making movies is really hard, and hundreds of people make each movie, and it's not just one person or whatever, and like a lot of stuff goes into it, and so I really like, it's hard to be really critical when I don't even do it, but then at the same time I don't want to be too lenient on films and just think, yeah, everything's good, so it's a fine line you walk. But with this one, I think I went in a little too critical, because I came out like nitpicking every little thing, where I should have just had fun with it, which is what the movie was doing. It was just having fun. And so it's really weird, and it's a great, weird movie. And thinking about it, like when I first came out, I was nitpicking everything, like, yeah, no, no, no. But, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that movie took balls to make, and it really didn't take itself seriously, which I love. Like, it totally easily could have, and it didn't. And, it really put me in that world, and it's a really fun movie, and I really want to revisit it. It's a horror comedy. Justin Long in the starring role, who I love. I really wish he would get more work. Michael Parks is fantastic in it. It's basically, the premise is this guy. This, I think he does a YouTube show. Actually, he's a podcaster. No, he's what we're doing. He's a podcaster, and and basically he goes to Canada because he's going to interview this kid who did this viral video, and then the reason it went viral is because everyone's bullying him about it. And so when he goes to interview him, that kid had actually killed himself because of all the bullying. And this guy was one of the bullies. He's kind of an asshole. So then while he's in Canada, he's like, oh, what should I do? And he's like, I need this interview, for the views or whatever. And he's in this restroom, and he sees an ad for this guy who wants to just tell his life story or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'll check him out. So he goes, and hijinks ensue. Basically, and I'm just going to tell you this. I don't think it's a spoiler because the name is Tusk. This dude turns Jake Long into a walrus. Or Justin Long, sorry. Not the offensive tackle from the Dolphins. Or was the Dolphins. Justin Long into a walrus. And there's some body horror, really good comedy, and some really gross scares. And it's just an overall, it's kind of a longer movie, but like I said, it could have easily just, if you go in wanting to have a good time, I think you really will. If you go in nitpicking it, you're gonna not like it, which I wish I wouldn't have at the time. But really fun movie.
I think, and I think it goes back to the point we were talking about earlier, in the fact that so obviously, like you said, a flawed movie, but it's a movie about, turning Justin Long into a walrus, and it's directed by Kevin Smith, and that's interesting. So they pick up this movie,
Yep.
and that again, like it's a really interesting model.
Yeah, I agree, because I guarantee you, that's the only comedy horror about turning someone into a walrus ever made. I guarantee you that's the only one that exists.
And it's so bizarre to see how well they are at how good they do at finding these movies that are so niche.
I agree. It's impressive.
It's definitely one of a kind. Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I think you definitely should. It's one that just needs to be experienced. Did you see A Most Violent Year with Oscar Isaac? I didn't either. It looked good.
I love me some Oscar Isaac.
He can do no wrong.
I can.
Poe Dameron.
Oh yeah.
Oh damn! I wanted to see While We're Young. I wasn't able to see it because I like Ben Stiller, and I've liked, I saw The Secret Life of Walter Mitty when I saw that I did a double feature that day of that and The Wolf of Wall Street back to back.
Oof.
Odd, yes.
Do you remember anything? Did The Secret Life
yeah,
stay a secret?
It did. I don't know anything about him, and really, it got kind of some poor reviews and some hate, but. When I saw it, I went in blind. The first trailer grabbed me, and so I wanted to see it. I went in. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I had a great time. I was like, and I could see, I could honestly see where people would be wrong. If you're having a bad day, I could really see people not liking it. But I went in just like every step of the way. It just hit me on the right emotional level at every time. And I was like, wow, this is really fun. And was it cliched at times? Yes, absolutely. Did it reinvent the wheel? No. But just, I like Ben Stiller. He seems to be and I think While We're Young is about these people who are in their 40s and they want to get into hipster culture. And so just seeing the inside of hipster culture could be fun because I'm not a hipster, and whatever. We won't go down that road. But another one, a great one here is Ex Machina, one of the best from last year.
And probably one of the better sci-fi movies of the last
In a long time. Like pure
yeah,
sci-fi.
absolutely, yeah. A pure sci-fi movie that's very much grounded in reality.
Yeah.
I would say, as far as where technology is
absolutely.
leading us.
Three of the best actors working today.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Oscar Isaac is the I won't say put him on the map because we have to. I'm pretty sure when we look back, everyone's gonna think Star Wars is what put him on the map, and that put him on the map for most of society. But
We've known him for years.
Yeah, this is the one that did it. Oscar Isaac and Alicia Vikander, they really this was the coming out party, and it's so interesting to have that. Like you don't really ever get that in a sci-fi movie unless you're Harrison Ford or something, and you stumble upon a Blade Runner or something like that. But I don't. There's been a lot of words said about this movie.
It's
I don't
true.
know if I can add.
No, you're
lot,
right.
But,
you're right. I think if you're itching for a sci-fi movie, it doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah,
I think that's the best.
I would call it
essential
viewing.
The best AI since 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it probably does it better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what else can we say?
I agree. Go watch it.
Yeah, Slow West. I heard a lot of good things about. Didn't see it. I do like westerns. I heard it's aptly titled. I heard it's very slow and it's a western. And I said, hey, what a good title. I've heard great things about the Amy documentary. Haven't seen it.
Amy,
have you seen it?
Oh, let's talk. Phenomenal. It's I'm a sucker for rockumentaries. I can pretty much dial in a rockumentary every 3 to 6 months and be totally fine with the coming of age, hit it big, downfall, comeback.
This is Spinal Tap.
There's the beats of these things that they have, and I'm okay with that. So some people just can't really do the rockumentaries. I obviously
You're not one of those that can.
I can do them all day. Love them. This one is interesting because they chose, and I think it's brilliant because I didn't really know. I knew Amy Winehouse, but I didn't really get it.
You're really pulling all the thoughts out of my head right now. Honestly, I knew her from obviously she was famous for she had that one huge hit, Rehab, and then she died of a drug overdose, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, who saw this coming?" And then she became the poster child of she's a stupid drug whore. Don't do drugs.
Yeah, and it's
not my words, by the way.
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't know that she just all she ever wanted to do in life was just play for the 10 people in front of her. She didn't ask to be a superstar, and when that happened, obviously the fame brings down mostly everyone.
It's a tough. I can't even imagine how hard that would be.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get famous from this.
Yeah, please.
Please stop listening. Right.
Please no. Yes. I think we're good there. But but yeah, it does a really good job of capturing that. The fact that she was just kind of wanted to just sing this soul music and just be happy with that. And they also just basically only used footage, basically home footage of her. So there's which is so refreshing because so often these movies kind of get bogged down with interviews in the beach house from people that were there, and this movie really there's not a whole lot of that, which is really nice.
And and that's a good.
I would definitely check it out because this is the downfall from fame, and it's a hard watch because she was incredible
Right.
for what she was.
Yeah, and like you said, with A24 picking up great projects, this is one that is you know, like you said, with there's documentaries, there's a built-in audience for those. A lot of people can just sit down and watch those, and a lot of times they're great. I really enjoy them too. You know, it's just kind of by the numbers, and you do what you do. But with this one, it was a little more of a risk because as far as monetary gains, because yeah, Amy Winehouse wasn't mega popular. She was a name because she OD'd, you know, and so I think it could be perceived as like sort of like almost saying that that's okay, like saying, oh, drug use is good, look how great she was. And I think that was a lot of the negative connotation that was attached to this, or could be perceived pretty easily as that. But from what I understand, it's so much more, and is actually,
Yeah,
and and I don't think does it shy away from the darkness and the drugs at all.
no, yeah, it's it's a heartbreaking story, about a person that never wanted to be famous and didn't really have the tools and the correct people around her to deal with
Right.
anything. And yeah, it's a good documentary though. I tell you what, there's a couple different ways you can do that documentary, and I think they picked the absolute right way to do it.
Sure. Well, this next one up here, the end of the tour. I actually have it in my room right now. This one I had heard a bit about. Jason Segel, Jesse Eisenberg, about David Foster Wallace and his interview he did a while. It was based on a book that this guy who was a journalist for the Times, I believe, or no, the Rolling Stone. It was the Rolling Stone, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And David Lipsky did this interview with him for a story, and then it never was published. David Foster Wallace is a great American author, probably the most important of the 20th century, 21st century. I mean, and just he blew up with Infinite Jest, which I'm currently reading right now. It's on my shelf. It's a monster. It's a big guy, but yeah, it's a monster. But like this movie, I bought it because there was a movie rental store the town over that was going out of business, so I thought I'd get some sweet deals. They didn't have great deals. It was like $5 for Blu-rays, $8 for, or no. I'm sorry, worse than that. $5 for DVDs, $8 for Blu-rays. So basically,
Practically giving them away.
practically Walmart prices. I mean, that's all it was. I was like, this isn't a sale. This is like normal price, but whatever. I don't really care that much. But anyway, this was one of the DVDs I bought, and I'm a Blu-ray guy. And I just heard it was good, indie movie, good, Didn't know about David Foster Wallace, didn't know really anything. Like Jason Segel, Jesse Eisenberg's okay, and just kind of was like, whatever, I'll watch it. I was blown away. This movie had a profound effect on me. I mean, honestly, I was put in this. I called you after I watched it. I was in an emotional state. I mean, I wasn't like crying. I just was in this weird place, and I was like, this movie. It really. I mean, if a movie can do that, I mean that's amazing. That movie just blew me away, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I don't know, and I don't want to say like, and the main character that Jason Segel played of David Foster Wallace, he, he reminded me of myself in some ways, but I don't like saying that because it's like comparing myself to a genius. We're the same guy. I'm a genius.
I wake up feeling like Kanye
every morning.
Pretty much every morning.
Every morning.
I can relate with that.
Yeah.
So you're totally fine saying that.
I'm a genius, yeah. So is it because I'm a genius and fish sticks are crunchy?
I got you.
South Park. It's a little indie TV. It's not an indie TV show. Yeah, so that's one that really, I mean, honestly, I think if I saw it, I think if I saw it at an earlier age, which is a weird thing to say, I think if I saw it at an earlier age, it might be in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It could, I mean, honestly,
So you're waiting for it to marinate a little bit.
yeah, and I think the it's an uphill battle for this movie, and the problem is that when movies blow you away, the more times you're blown away, it's the law of diminishing returns. It loses its effect on you a little bit,
Right.
So there's some movies in there that just won't get knocked out, but this one could maybe in the future, if it continues to ring true later in life, it could be bucking for that number 10 spot. It's tough competition. And I don't think it is, but it's a great one. So maybe in the future. But yeah, definitely check that one out. It's really an easy watch. I mean, it's easy and hard. Like it's easy to be like, oh, it's a road trip movie. They have these great conversations, But you get into it and it hits you so hard emotionally. So I think definitely check it out. I didn't see Mississippi Grind. Ben Mendelsohn's a great actor. Didn't see it. Room still haven't seen because not a good person.
Really?
I'm serious, and
I
I'm
didn't know that.
I'm so good at seeing movies. I really am. But I missed this one completely, and it won everything. So many awards.
As it should have. As it should have. Yeah. This is Brie Larson. This is her.
By the way, sorry, can I bring this up?
If you're gonna say anything about Miss Marvel or anything
I'm not.
of that nature, I'm gonna
No.
tell you that you are not allowed to watch that movie until you see Room.
Whatever.
I will put a ban.
No. I was gonna say.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say when you said Brie Larson, I called that. Remember at the beginning of the year we had this conversation. It was a while ago now. It might have even been last. It was last year. It wasn't 2016.
Babe Ruth.
I did.
You Bambino Brie Larson.
We talked about it, and you
I now
said
remember this.
you brought it up. We were coming back from Vermilion, and you said you were like,
she's gonna be a big deal.
right, because you said, who do you think the breakout actresses are that are out there? Who's set to break out? And Brie Larson was my number one pick, and I said Brie Larson, Lake Bell, maybe. She still has yet to prove me right, but she will. And this one, like Brie Larson, like she got put on the map with 21 Jump Street. Great in that, and you're like, who is this girl? And you kind of see her in smaller roles, like she was in Trainwreck, and she was in this other movie that I don't remember, but The Gambler. That was the one. She was the terrible movie. She was in that, and she was kind of like, you could tell she was talented, and she was just like waiting to break out, And I said Brie Larson, even though she was kind of on the map, she wasn't a household name. And then she won the Oscar. I was so right.
All right. Hey, credit where credit is due.
Thank you.
If you Bambinoed her, you Bambinoed her, and I like it. Yeah.
Could you say I alluded to her winning an Oscar?
Never.
Okay, that's probably.
Yeah, Room.
We are in a room right now.
It's harder now that it's won pretty much everything. To know, to go in knowing nothing, but the less you know about the movie, the better. There's one scene that sticks with me in that movie that is probably one of the most it's one of my favorite scenes in the last can't even remember how many years, but some really interesting stuff there. I really enjoyed it.
So basically, the premise, and like I said, I haven't seen it, is that this girl was kidnapped when she was younger, and the room, not the room, which is in itself a masterpiece in a different way. Room. So she was trapped in this room, and then she got pregnant from her kidnapper.
Yes.
And so then had a baby, and that child has lived its whole life in that room, so that's its whole world. room. Okay. I just wanted to sell it a little bit for the people.
Yeah, yeah. It's phenomenal. It goes much farther than you would expect from a movie like this, and the child actor in it, I don't know his name, but
They said it a lot around Oscar time. They said he totally
very
should have been
very
nominated.
good, very very good. Yeah, and the one of the smartest decisions with this movie, and obviously Brie Larson won everything, and
Right.
deservedly so again, is it is told from the child's perspective, the story, which I think is probably the it's very much the easiest way to tell the story because it's a very hard subject to talk to like to portray. Like no one really wants to talk
Right.
about that, and it would be an almost brutally hard movie to watch from the perspective of the Brie Larson character, but it's done from the child's perspective, and it's very 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 well done.
Jacob Tremblay is the child actor's name.
Nice
Yeah.
work, Jacob.
Good job, buddy. I'm really excited to see that. One we saw earlier this year together,
Oof.
which
Oof.
we both loved, I
Oof.
think. I
I
mean,
can hardly think about it.
The Witch.
The Witch.
I mean, we both love horror movies, and boy, I had a great time.
This one knocked my socks off. I was not prepared going in.
That's scary right there. Like that's what you get when you buy it.
I think I'm on the record with saying that if an animal can win an Oscar
Yeah.
at any point in time, like it should be Black Phillip, and he should be nominated because that's one of the most iconic villains I've seen in a movie in quite some time, and not only an iconic villain, but taking the OG villain,
Yes.
just going, I'm Satan,
Yeah.
the first villain.
And you see him, the instant you see him, you're like, whoa, stay away from this. Your body reacts. It's like, all right, this is bad news. We got to get away from this guy.
It's obviously the movie works because it's so steeped in the time period, which is like early 1600s Puritan.
Yeah, early settlers.
Yeah, the setup is basically Puritans. They're out on their own. They're deeply deeply religious.
They
family.
feel that their town isn't religious
enough, so they end up
they
leaving.
leave.
And from there, chaos ensues. They're I don't want to get too spoiler here, but
let's just elude.
There's a witch in it.
Holy effing shit!
There's a witch.
She's
But,
pretty. she's pretty witchy.
Yeah, you come for the witch, but you stay
For Black Phillip.
Goat. And Black Phillip absolutely steals the show, and it was one of the funnest horror movies I think I've seen.
Yeah, it was great. And the thing is, I know we're talking it up quite a bit here. The Witch, what you need to know is that it's slow. I mean, it's a slow burn, which I love, you love. It takes its time telling the story, sets it up great. But the thing is that it's what I loved about it, and the reason that I think it really will hold up for a long time is that it's basically, like it says right here, The Witch, underneath it says, a New England folk tale, which is the best way to describe it. A New England folk tale. It's straight up just like an old folk tale you would read. It's slow. The way they talk is weird, and you can't always understand what they mean.
It's very Shakespearean.
Yeah.
It's almost you if you put this in the DVD player, like this is probably a movie that I throw the subtitles up on.
You might have
very
to.
hard to get. You get kind of bogged down in how they speak. It's a lot of thou hast and
Yes.
thou mustn't and
Absolutely. And
but that's what sells it.
Right. And it sticks to it 100%, and it doesn't use any of the modern horror movie bullshit. There's I mean there's sort of jump scares, like there's the one, but it's not false. You're supposed to be afraid of it, and it's not really it's not just a quick and then it goes away. It's a real scare. It just jumps out and scares you, and it's slow, and the scares are deep, and they're in the deepest realms of your mind, and it just feels like a very old tale that you would tell your kids, that's been passed down.
Yeah.
And the way it's portrayed is great, and the way that they don't sell out and make it feel more modern, it just really
Everything seems very
authentic.
authentic, and they really earn it.
Yeah, I agree.
They earn and they deserve all of the situation that you're put in. If there is like a jump scare, it's because it's so well set up,
Right.
and that tension, just like the tension boils so well in this movie. It
Absolutely.
just boils and boils and boils, and it
Yes.
never lets up. It's one of those. I think it's one of the absolute best compliment you can give a horror film is that every shot is just steeped in tension,
Yeah.
and it's just very very hard to that first time through. Whew,
Yeah, you feel dirty. You feel dirty.
Black Phillip,
Is
Black Phillip
for life.
for Oscar.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we had a great time watching it. It's a great movie, and it really, yeah, it stays with you. And I think they really balanced realistic grittiness, and it feels real, and it feels like you're being told this from a real person in that time. It doesn't feel like they're like, oh, look at how old timey we are. Look at all this crazy stuff we do. Like, they have real problems, and it seems like they deal with it in real people way. Just it happens to take place in that time, and they really balance that realism and that grittiness with the almost fae, the fairy element, the fairy tale, folk tale element of
Yes.
it. Is just, yeah, I think it's great. Definitely check it out. Here's one I was going to watch. Haven't yet. Going to watch it because I'm a big fan of the director. He directed Blue Ruin, which was my number one favorite random Netflix choice of all time. I didn't know anything about it. Was like, I don't know what this is. I'm gonna watch it, and it blew my socks off. And so, go. I haven't seen it. You recently saw it.
Yeah. This is another one. Never in my film going life did I think that Patrick Stewart would inflict so much fear in me. I didn't think he had it in it. Didn't think he had it in him. But wow, he really goes for it in this. And this movie. This is another tough watch. I think we were talking about this. We needed to come up with a genre name for these movies that are extremely hard to watch, but are very good movies. Like, you and I kind of classify this like we were talking about it earlier. You saying you watch Prisoners a bunch of times, and you said and I'm like, ooh, oh, how'd you do that? Because you can't really just say like, oh yeah, I love Prisoners.
Gotta tell you, it's not easy.
Yeah.
You're taking years off your life, probably.
Yeah, this is another one of those films, and like you wouldn't just say, "Oh man, I love that film," because like you're gonna be like, are you into that kind of neo-Nazi kind of stuff, or what are you getting at here? Why did you love the movie? It's like, well, it's really well done. Oh, so okay, good, yeah. 'Cause it's one of those where it's a very bad. Basically, the plot of the movie is that a not very good hardo rock band.
Punk? Is it punk?
Yeah, punk. They're not good.
Okay.
At all. Like, it's one of those bands.
They're
they're siphoning gas to get to their next gig and showing up at a gig that doesn't exist, and so they end up at this bar.
Is it Bob's Country Bunker?
It is. Yes, it is. It is down. It is down in the sticks. They end up at this bar. They play their show. Chaos ensues when they see something they're not supposed to, and they are confronted by a whole host of neo-Nazi, not very nice people. And
typically they're not, from what I understand. I haven't met any of them.
this doesn't, yeah,
It
this
doesn't
this
paint
doesn't
him in a
stray,
good
yeah,
light.
this doesn't stray far from
Mhm.
the expected. But yeah, very, very, very well done movie. I'll just go watch it.
I'm excited. And the late Anton Yelchin stars, who I'm not just saying this because he's dead, but I really was a big fan of his. I know a lot of people, once somebody dies, all of a sudden they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But really, Anton, I've been really looking forward to
This
seeing his
was
career develop.
this this would be a good performance to remember him by, because it's something else.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I yeah, and you really have no idea like how this movie plays out because of how bleak it is, and
Okay.
but I have to say it's good.
I'm really excited to see it.
A tough watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Our genre title upcoming. We're working on
Yeah,
that.
pending.
We're working on that.
We'll allude
We'll
to
get
it
back to it.
later.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue to work that in. Okay, then another one I still want to see, still haven't seen because it never came to my theater, is The Lobster. That's one that I really want to see badly.
This, yeah. I saw this one as well.
You're doing a
The
lot
Lobster. It's gonna leave you with something. I came out of it like I was like a zombie. I'm like, oh, companionship is a lie.
better.
Like, it's something else. I can't even really. I'll just say, just go see it. If you're a fan of,
Is it experiential?
yeah, it's just
It's a real
it's so bizarre, and the universe that this movie is set in, it's not like future, it's not past, it's just like an alternate dimension where if you get divorced, you go to a house and you
Yeah.
pick what animal you want to be turned into if
Right.
you don't find a mate in 30 days. So it's just like an alternate universe of,
That
very
sounds plausible.
it mirrors ours.
Right.
So
Very
there's some differences between their world and ours, but
The director of this, he's a foreign guy. He does foreign films. I know that.
yeah, this is one of his first English
Mhm.
spoken.
I'm
Right?
not even gonna try on his name.
Yogoros Lanthimos.
That's not bad, actually. But I'm extremely excited to see this. I know John C. Riley's in it. He talked about it on a podcast once,
Yes.
and he said that this dude's a big deal in other places. But the thing is that, I I heard him do some odd comparisons, and I just wanted to run these by you.
Okay.
Well, this really was the one, but he compared him to Stanley Kubrick, and I thought that's a big name, and I'm a huge Kubrick fan.
Yeah. Like I would say that, yeah, it just like basing it off like my experience with The Lobster. I think a lot of Kubrick's work is almost like he's almost like kind of poking at his audience, saying, the joke's on you,
Right.
kind of thing. And that's like the writing with this is very much in that line, like the
Okay.
the haha, the jokes.
I'm
on
smarter
you,
than you.
Yes,
I'm
very
clearly
much
better
so,
than you.
because it's some of the most bizarre. It's just insane, but it's very, yeah, it insanely bleak, and yeah, I don't really know, like it. There's definitely not a Kubrick film that really
Is
that goes in the direction that they went with The Lobster, but yeah, I think it's really worth
I
watching.
think you described that pretty well. That makes me even more excited.
Yeah, it's fun. Colin Farrell is great, and like you said, John C. Riley is
He's so good in everything. You forget how good of an actor that
Yep.
guy is. He is amazing.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the one I really wanted to talk about. Another A24 movie here. This is my favorite movie of the year. I think it will continue to be my favorite movie of the year. Swiss Army Man.
I'm jealous.
I
have not
was
seen it. Talk to me about it.
Oh gosh, guys, it's
Tell
hard
me about
to.
it.
I've been
Tell me without telling me, because
right
it is currently in an unwatchable state.
on the internet.
It is neither. It is neither a part of the internet nor is it a part of any theater that I know.
No.
So,
And when it was
I am patiently waiting.
right, and when it was in town, it was only showing on one theater for one time every day. It was like 11 a.m. showing,
Yeah, 11 a.m.
and that was it. And
Tough for
and it was
people.
only there for like a week and
Yeah.
a half. And I
Yeah.
really, I almost saw it twice. I mean, I could have, but I
They
didn't.
weren't. They weren't catering to the 8 to 5 crowd with that time.
No.
Which is kind of
No.
frustrating.
And what I will say is, you were the one who showed me the trailer for it, and I think here's what I'll tell you: watch the trailer. Because when I watched the trailer, I was kind of hesitant. I was like, I mean, that looks odd. I mean, it looks just weird. And I didn't know if it was going to be a good weird or a bad weird. I mean, it looked like it could go way over the top ridiculous. And I was kind of like, I don't really know what to think about it. That's kind of where I stood. So when I saw it was in town, it had been getting good reviews. I was kind of on the fence because I was like, I'm kind of picky with what movies I go see in the theater because, your money means something. It's kind of like voting. And so I was kind of like a little bit hesitant, but, what really sold me was Paul Dano, the star, was on this podcast I listened to, not this one, but it's called WTF. It's probably the most famous podcast out there. It's a great one. And he was on there promoting this, and his just passion and his talk about it was like crazy, and it really made me excited, and I saw it and was completely blown away. The thing that this movie is, it's extremely odd. It is the weirdest movie I've ever seen in the best way possible, but it's just so weird. I can only tell you some of the stuff that happened without trying to spoil. I don't want to spoil his stuff, but it's basically Paul Dano put it he said when the directors, it's first time directors, both guys named Daniel, and when it says it's called directed by Daniels, there's two of them, and they thought of this concept when they were in college, but basically how they pitched it to him was wouldn't it be great if we could make a movie that about farting where the first fart makes you laugh and the last fart makes you cry, and if we could do that, and that sold him. And really it's odd.
That's interesting.
So basically, to try and give you an idea, this guy Paul Dano is about to kill himself. He's stranded on this deserted island. He has no way out. He's about to hang himself, and then this dead body washes up on shore, and he gets curious, enough not to, goes up to it, and it starts farting, and it won't stop. And then he kind of realizes that this dead body can kind of do certain abilities to help him survive or get out of the, situation he's in. Basically, that sounds kind of vague. You'll see it in the trailer. Right away, he's farting so much, he uses the dead body as a jet ski to get going. And he eventually figures out he can pump him and get water out of him. He can karate chop wood. He can use him to start a fire. And the great thing about this dead body is that he's basically a blank slate. He's basically a child who doesn't know anything. So the whole time he's just asking Paul Dano about life and about these certain things in a very naive way like a child would. And it's just and the thing that really makes this movie great is the writing, because it's a very ridiculous idea and, way to do something, but the writing is so phenomenal. It makes it so good, and it's about farting and the personal things that we do that we don't share with people because we're ashamed of them or we're too private, and it's about how that's bad to keep that in, and we should, if you can share that with someone, that's true intimacy, and it's just it is a phenomenal film. It's honestly it's one of my favorites that I've seen in a long, long time.
Well, you had me at jet skiing on Daniel Radcliffe's dead body.
Yeah.
So
honestly, the whole time I was watching this, I was like, I wish Jurdo was next to me the entire time.
From the second I saw it, that I heard about it, I was pretty in on it. I'm a pretty big Daniel Radcliffe fan, and obviously Paul Dano, he's somebody that I appreciate much in the world of film. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I know. I kind of got a little long-winded on that, but what do you do?
Well deserved.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Sea of Trees. I think one that both of us are excited about, seems like it's getting a lot of press, is American Honey.
So now we're looking
forward
into stuff they have done. This is like one of those very primal. If you know anything,
that's
about
a good
me,
word.
If you know,
honestly, like wow, that's like perfect.
Yeah, if you know anything about me, like I can like just attach onto certain things that a movie has, and so I see Shia LaBeouf as, in any film. If I see him in a trailer, I'm like, ooh,
that's good.
That looks
that's
good.
what I want.
That looks good. Yeah. So it had that effect with me, but it looks interesting. Shia LaBeouf as a vagabond, pulling tricks and having a lovely time with
what's her face?
I assume Sasha Lane.
Yeah. Star?
Yes. And yeah, I don't know. I want to see it.
Yeah.
It looks
again,
good.
the trailer, you see it and you're like, looks like nothing I've
what
seen.
We've been talking about. Like
exactly.
Maybe it's not great, but it's something I want to see and probably will see.
And yeah, it looks again like nothing I've seen before. And A24 really is impressive in that regard.
They do it well.
If we've said nothing this far, I think we've given you about the most unique collection of uniquely unique movies. I mean, it's really impeccable.
Yeah, check them out.
Definitely. So we're both really excited to see that. And
anything else?
Well, I don't really know much about these other ones, but I think studio movies are great, and the big blockbusters, we all love escapism, and it's important, and like I said, lower expectations. You just go have a good time and go home. If you want movies that challenge you, that really expand your way of thinking, that hit you on an emotional core that a lot of bigger movies can't, if you want really personal movies, I think definitely this is the best place to start. A24 is the best place. This production company, like we've said, their track record is great. If you want to get into them, I think that's the best place to start. But that's going to end it, obviously, with the outro music. You can follow me on Twitter at LukeLarson89. You can follow this podcast at L Squared Podcast on Twitter. It's also on Facebook. Do you want to be
esteemed guest?
My favorite guest. My favorite guest so far.
Recurring guest.
Old Legs. Want to be found yet? Okay. He is in the back. Shadows in the back. All right. Hey, we'll see you in the next one.